Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So I'm just enjoying having a quick cigar on the deck, catching up on some news, and enjoying a nice cup of coffee, and from the one of my favorite mugs from my favorite restaurant, Manz's Pie and Mash on Tower Bridge Road. If any of you know Manz's on Tower Bridge Road, drop me a comment below. Always the first place I eat when I get back home. Make a quick pit stop, and two pie, one mash, and liquor. Not one for the jelly deals, but lots of chili vinegar. But I was reading a Sky News, what they called an end of term report, detailing what the public opinion is regarding the Starmer's Labour government, and the numbers and for Starmer are not looking good. For a viable alternative, the numbers are looking good, but for Starmer, the numbers are not doing well. In fact, if an election was held tomorrow, most likely Labour would go down in flames. So I'm just going to go through the numbers quickly and then give some thoughts about what they mean. So a number of questions were asked, but 50% more people, and this is total voters, not Labour voters specifically. 50% more people disapprove of the Labour government's performance than approve, with a total disapproval rating approaching 70%. So only about 25, almost towards 30% of people actually approve of Labour's performance thus far. But only half of the Labour voters who voted for Labour in the last government, only 51%, would vote for them again if an election was held tomorrow. And a similar number of Labour voters specifically also disapprove of the government's performance to date. So where are the votes going, or where is public opinion going, swaying to? Mostly the Lib Dems and Green, with only 7% though going to reform. So that indicates there's some room here for reform to actually do something to capitalize on this growing sense of disenchantment with amongst Labour voters. But they're not rushing to reform, and in fact, most have said that they would in fact vote for the Conservatives if an election was held tomorrow, rather than vote for reform. Only 11% said they would vote for reform. And this is quite surprising, given the fact that although we're blaming, I've got no love for the Labour government at all under Starmer. It's surprising given the fact that a lot of what the British public is facing today is because of the Conservative government, and Starmer didn't conjure up all of this by himself. As soon as he got elected, a lot of this was inherited issues. So it's surprising that many would actually vote for Conservative over voting for reform. So what's driving the numbers? Specifically, what are driving the numbers? And I think predictably, I think most people get a sense of really where the issues are. The big main area of concern, well, combined area of concern, is the National Health Service. What's happening to healthcare? If it's anything like Canada, I do a lot of work with Americans, and daily I have Zoom calls, and invariably, talk of the tariffs come up, talk of what it's like in Canada versus what it's like in the US, and a lot of them say, well, at least in Canada you have free healthcare. And I say, yeah, unfortunately, that's a myth. Once upon a time, it was a great healthcare system, but it's a myth. I would even go so far as to saying that the healthcare system here has completely crumbled. Most people I know do not have a GP, and I'm sure it's exactly the same in the UK. You do get seen by dentists a lot quicker, because all dentists here, unless you're elderly or fall into certain categories, everybody pays for the dentist in Canada. So you do get to see a dentist quickly, but you pay highly for it. It's incredibly expensive here. But But to get to see a GP, if you're fortunate enough to have a family doctor, can take several months, and then it can take 6, 7, 8 months for a referral to a specialist if you need one. I'll mention it in another video, but some of my personal experiences with the healthcare system here, just how dreadful it is. But I know it's the same in the UK. Long waits, and of course this is driven by a number of things. So the majority of people are very concerned with the state of the NHS, but also a similar number are very concerned with the cost of living crisis, like in many places in the world, is impacting the UK very hard as well. So, you know, pay rates are not keeping pace with the increase in the cost of living. And again, just like in Canada as well, whereas, you know, a lot of people just a couple of years ago were doing fairly well financially and now really starting to struggle and make ends meet. The increase in the number of food banks here and the types of people using food banks are not typical. A lot of them are working families who are resorting now to having to go to food banks. So again, so in the UK, it's the NHS and the cost of living. With an Ipsos poll recently concluded that 50% of voters surveyed just believe that the Labour government has completely mismanaged the economy. A big one, which I'm sure everybody will agree with, that one of the main concerns amongst British voters today is illegal migration. You know, I mentioned it in another video. Starmer has done absolutely, really, what has he done to stop this? Absolutely nothing. Let's be honest, let's be serious. You know, giving the French government millions of pounds to do whatever they're doing with that money, I don't know, isn't solving it. You know, still subscribing to the European human rights legislation regarding asylum seekers is just causing massive headaches. You know, and now you see what happened in Epping and what's happening in Canary Wharf with the hotels. Starmer's done absolutely nothing to stop it, and just this massive, uncontrollable, it seems, wave of migrants just arriving daily on beaches in England. Nobody knows who these people are. You know, I've always been an advocate for you know, protecting the rights of refugees and asylum seekers, but there's a way to do it. There's a way to come in, and arriving on dinghies, discarding your ID, your paperwork, and nobody knowing who you are. I think there is cause for concern. I'll expand on that in a future video. Some of my thoughts on what's happening. For those who don't know, I was an intelligence officer in a past life, and you know, it's all about connecting dots and seeing trends and trying to make sense of very disparate facts. So I'll talk about that in another video. Another concern is what Starmer's done regarding Gaza. And I saw today that he intends to officially recognize a Palestinian state. Now, great virtue signaling. I believe that there's, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way. I don't know if that's, he wants to force an Israeli ceasefire, and said that unless there is a ceasefire, we will officially recognize a Palestinian state. I believe they're going to do it anyway. Macron in France has said the same thing, and then Carney jumped right on board, jumped on the bandwagon and said exactly the same thing. But no one's actually consider. You know, are they really considering what does this mean? What is this? Is this rewarding terrorism? Is this rewarding Hamas? And when you say recognize a Palestinian state, who is the Palestinian state? Who will be the government of this Palestinian state? Will it be the same group that launched the October 7th attack? There is no alternative political movement in Gaza. Who will the Palestinian state be? And ultimately, what does this mean for the state of Israel? So I don't believe it's something that's been thought out. Again, great virtue signaling on the part of Starmer, appealing to a certain demographic of opinion, but it hasn't been thought out. But a lot of people are very concerned about how he's handled the Gaza issue in general. So, what does this mean? I think for reform specifically, there's huge opportunities here. There's opportunities to appeal to the Labour voters, to the disenchanted, the disenfranchised Labour voters, to bring them over to the reform camp, to steer them away from the Conservatives, to show that reform is a incredibly viable alternative. I'm not suggesting who anybody should vote for, but I think at the end of the day, you have to look at the party that will get the job done. So yeah, it's appeal to the dissatisfied Labour voters, and really importantly, to remind people that the mess that we're in today is largely being caused by the Conservatives. I think that it would really help if, I'm hearing a lot of statements from Farage about what he wants to do to deal with the migrant crisis. There's been some great suggestions, but I think really drilling down on that will greatly help as well. But importantly, what I think that the most important thing that Farage can do, and not just Farage, others on the centre right, is really to really unite the movement. There's a lot of alternative groups and movements starting, political parties starting on the centre right, infighting amongst the centre right. I think it's time for people like Farage, Ben Habib to start mending fences, to start building bridges, mend fences, to start bringing the entire movement together, create a holistic, unified voice. Unless there's a very holistic, unified voice, the concern is that the vote will be split. People will go and vote for the Lib Dems, they'll vote for the Conservatives. And again, like I said in my video yesterday, giving Labour a plurality of votes again to form yet another government. With the majority they have now, it's almost practically impossible that a non-confidence vote can bring down the government, forcing a general election, unless enough Labour MPs do decide to quit and walk across to the other side. There's a chance that Labour can get in again. There's ample opportunity and time now to capitalize on all of the screw-ups that Starmer is causing, to unite the centre right, to bring everybody together with one voice, to say that we need to return England and Britain, the United Kingdom, to the country that my grandparents built and fought for. That's what I hope will happen. And on the note of that, I lived with my grandparents, and later on again with my grandmother. I was born in Guy's Hospital in Bermondsey, and I grew up and lived on Crosby Road, which is just on the corner of Long Lane, so just around the corner from where the incident happened yesterday, and just devastated. It's in fact I stayed in that hotel just a couple of years ago. But it's my neighborhood. It's I feel very much at home there, and it's hearing that it's devastating, and I think this all goes into a lot of what Farage and Reform want to do to restore law and order. Sadiq Khan is just, what the heck is that guy doing? Starmer wants to increase the number of police officers on the street, wants to bring back hopefully old school policing, get rid of the woke, and start bringing law and order back to London. Just devastating. My heart goes out to the families of the victims. Just dreadful. And it's a great neighborhood, absolutely fantastic neighborhood. A little bit rough. Back in the day, it was a little bit rough around the edges. It's very different now than it was then, but still a great neighborhood full of good people. And I hope they bounce back soon. But yeah, so all in all, the numbers are just pitiful for Starmer. He deserves it. He has effed up royally. He had an opportunity here to do some good, didn't do it. And in fact, I'll be honest with you, I was never a Labour voter. But I think the Labour always had an important voice. They represented the workers of Britain. He does not, and I think what he's done to the Labour movement, he's killed it. He's taken that name and just trod it into the trod it into the mud, trampled it into the mud. So yeah. Anyhow, I'm waffling now, but yeah. So those are the numbers. Really, what I anybody's got any thoughts, any ideas about what they think reform needs to do to really fix this? Love to hear them. Um, Love to hear your comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot. But until the next video, take care, have a great evening, and I'll see you on the next one.